Welcome to the Amanda Hall Psychic Mini Workshop Series here on Facebook Live every Wednesday morning from the Gold Coast. This week we're up to episode number 62, and this week we're going to be talking about the new moon in Taurus. So for those of you that are new to my workshop series, my name's Amanda Hall Psychic. I've been in the psychic industry here in Australia for well in excess of 40 years. I've been inducted into the Psychic Hall of Fame here, and I've won many industry awards throughout the years. So it's lovely for you to be able to join us here again this week. And let's get some T's and C's out of the road before we start. I don't give shout outs as we go through the presentation. I like to try and keep it as seamlessly as possible, and also more importantly so I don't lose my concentration and what we're going to be talking about this morning. But can I invite you to sort of say hi, where you're from, how the weather is, and be prepared for the fact that, you know, I will get back to you in the next 48 hours. I always like to acknowledge people that leave a little comment in the comments box, because you are important to us. You are all part of our family here on Facebook. And it's always nice when somebody acknowledges you, that you are part of something that's really unique here for each and every one of us. Now, I want to be very clear, this is not a workshop where I give away complimentary or free readings. I do that on my previous show on A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV on Facebook Live, just at 7 a.m. Queensland time on a Wednesday morning, or 5 p.m. in the USA. So I do that show prior to this, and on that show I do a couple of complimentary readings, but I don't do them here on my weekly workshop, because I want to keep this as an educational and a teaching session so that people sort of can learn to work with the moon cycles. We also work with the sun cycles, and we also work with other areas of psychic development. So I want to keep it as a teaching purpose, and I'm happy to answer any question that relates to the topic of the workshop. So if you have a question about this, and I will answer it for you afterwards on the wall, but I like to keep it to the topic at hand. I will not under any circumstances give you a complimentary reading on your love life or how life's going or what your future holds. I will only answer questions on the topic at hand. So this week I'm excited to talk about the new moon in Taurus. Now, why am I so excited about the new moon in Taurus? Well, I suppose because it's the second new moon for the year, but also it's sort of a time when I think we can be a little bit indulgent, where we can sort of slow down a little bit and sort of say to ourselves, okay, this is the time when I can sort of say to myself that I can give myself a little bit of luxurious time. You know, I can have that bubble bath, I can sit down and watch a movie, I can take myself shopping, I can do something a little bit indulgent for me. And it's really lovely that everybody's got these things, little emojis flying across the screen. I suppose it's not distracting, it's just sort of, I hadn't really noticed it before, and once you get it out of the corner of your eye, it sort of becomes quite addictive. Anyway, thank you for all those, everyone. So this week we're talking about, as I said, the new moon in Taurus. Now, the new moon actually will happen, the beginning of the new moon is the 4th, and it goes through to the 6th of May. So today here in Australia is the 1st of May. Now, I like to work with a new moon on a 7-day cycle. So let's get that out of the road first before I talk to you how and why we need this new moon and what we need to bring into our lives with the new moon. The new moon cycle for me, as I do with any of the moon cycles, I like to work on a 7-day principle. I like to start commencing working with my new moon energy 2 days before the new moon. So by the 2nd of May, we will be starting to work with the new moon. So on the 2nd and 3rd, is the 2 days leading into the new moon, then 3 days of the new moon, the 4th, 5th and 6th, and then 2 days after the new moon of the 7th and the 8th. Now, the reasons why I do that is 2 days on the approach so that we can start to warm up the energy. We can start to get it moving and attracting in our lives what we need to be and wanting to start to attract in our lives. So by the time that we get to the full moon, the new moon, I beg your pardon, we're starting to really feel the energy. We can feel the momentum building slowly up, 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 and then we're sitting on top of a mountain and we're really intensified with that energy. And sort of so we can sit there, we can really manifest, we can work with the energy, and then it slowly starts to wind down as we start to head towards the new moon. So it's really important, I think, if we get into these 7-day cycles, that we get ourselves into a little pattern. And it's always about patterns or regimes or, you know, little things that make us feel stable and comfortable in our lives. We all like to, whether we like to admit it or not, we all like to work with rules, and we all like to have things that are familiar to us. Even though we say that we don't like rules, we do like to set rules for ourselves or things to follow or connect the dots. And the new moon is no different to that. So what does a new moon mean? A new moon means it's a time when we can start to manifest and attract things towards us that are brand new, or things that are new to us. It is not the time where we're looking to really release things. You can do a little bit of releasing on the new moon if you want. I always like to have a little list of 3 things that I'm attracting and 3 things that I'm letting go of or are coming to a completion, or maybe aren't as new as what they were. So it's like 3 new things going on your list for this month, and they don't always have to be of a financial nature. You may wish to bring 3 new things into your life, or you can add more to that to your list if you wish, but they may be simple things like, you know, it might be that I want to bring a new, fresh approach to the way that I look at my health and hygiene. So for some people, that might be looking at a new eating regime or a new diet. I don't like the word diet. That always conjures up restriction to me. But I feel if we look at it in a way that, okay, I wish to become a healthier person, what can I bring into my life that's new that will help me achieve that? Now, for many of us, we get confused with, you know, there's so many different processes that we can do. You know, the latest fad is the keto diet, and many people are going on that, and they're saying it's curing everything from autoimmune diseases through to their toenail falling off to whatever. Look, I'm not saying that it's a bad way of eating. I think you have to sort of ask yourself what fits in your lifestyle and what feels right to you. And, you know, I come back to, you know, we were all taught when we went to school eating from the 5 basic food groups. And, you know, there were some that we were supposed to have more of and some we were supposed to have less of, and making sure that we got adequate sleep and we got exercise every day. And if we did that, we were pretty much guaranteed that our health would be the best that it could be. And then all of a sudden, people get all these fanciful ideas about if we cut out this and we add that and we subtract that and we do this and you stand on your head and you jiggle your right toe, that all of a sudden we're going to be magically better than what we were. And I'm not saying they're wrong. What I'm saying is do what feels right for you. I mean, if you follow common sense, and that's what I think eating is about, is common sense, and look at what does your body need nutritionally to function. It's like putting petrol in your car. If you don't put the right petrol in your car, it doesn't work properly. It coughs and splutters and doesn't drive properly, and you know, and you're not guaranteed you're going to get to your destination. Well, your body's the same way. If we don't put the correct fuel into our body for our own individual needs, then how can we expect it to work? So why does this come under a new moon? Well, because the new moon is something new, so we're looking at a new way of maybe improving our health. And the reasons why I'm focusing on that this week is the fact that the new moon is in Taurus. So Taurus is renowned for knowing that they need to feel at the end of the day they have a substantial meal. You don't give a Taurus a salad for dinner. They sort of look at it and say, well, where's the rest of it? Is that the entree? You know, they feel at the end of the day, and you don't have to be a Taurus to feel this way, but Taurians particularly feel that they need a good solid meal at the end of the day with protein and vegetables that can sustain them for the hard work ahead. And I think that's a fairly good way of looking at it for every sign, no matter what your star sign is, that you need to look at what your body needs to fuel for the day ahead or the days ahead. So if we look at what suits your body and not necessarily what is trendy in inverted commas, and if your body says to you that you don't feel very comfortable and you don't feel very well after eating bread, then maybe you do have an intolerance to something that's in the bread. And I come back to that, you know, so many people now are eating gluten-free diets, and it's one of my big bugbears for the simple reason that not everybody on the planet that is eating gluten-free needs to be eating gluten-free. If you truly know that you are gluten intolerant and you have been diagnosed by a doctor and you have an autoimmune disease called celiac disease, then you truly are gluten intolerant. And if you've ever lived with anybody or had somebody in the family that was truly gluten intolerant, you will know that they become very, very sick from eating foods that contain gluten. It's not just that they saw something on the TV or social media and decided, oh, that's good, I'll jump on the bandwagon like everybody else. They truly do become quite ill from eating gluten foods. But for most of us, we might feel a little bit bloated after eating some sort of gluten because we've eaten too much. We overindulged in what we were doing. It's not necessarily, is it the gluten? Sometimes it can be other additives that actually do make you feel bloated and don't feel well. So be very aware of not going into things and following like sheep onto the latest eating regime because it's trendy. In instances like gluten-free diets, when you find that they take gluten out of the food, they quite often load it with sugar and salt and fat. So, you know, here you are trying to think you're doing the right thing, that you're watching your carbs and you're doing all the so-called right things by today's media, that all of a sudden you're actually putting more salt, more sugar and more fat into your diet that your body doesn't need, removing the gluten, which your body may need, and therefore you're depriving your body. So once you start to deprive your body of what it sees as something that it needs, then it goes into a panic. And it starts to go into fight mode. And then all of a sudden we're starting to set up an imbalance in our body because our body's searching for something that isn't there. And this is where I come back to be very careful of all these new eating regimes. If you really feel comfortable that the keto diet is for you, or the keto way of eating and lifestyle is for you, that's terrific. But if you look at it and you think, hey, hang on a minute, 50% or 60% of those foods my body can't handle at the best of times, then why would you put yourself into that eating regime that automatically tells your body we've gone into fight mode because your body can't tolerate or process some of those foods? And for some people, they need more carbohydrate than others. I believe everything in balance. And if that's one thing that I've learned in my lifetime, is that some people are born and their body shape is different to what the fashion model is. And that's just their genetic heritage. You know, sometimes people are born with a bigger bone structure and more body weight that still eat properly and still exercise and still do all the right things and say, but I am the size I am. Then there's other people that got to a much bigger size because they did put excess into their body of excess sugar and fats and things, and basically no nutrition. So I think if we all aim towards good nutrition, and whatever that means for you is the right thing for you. So I'm a firm believer in we shouldn't skip meals. I think that we need to at least fuel the body 3 times a day. I think that's important because when you get out of bed and you've been asleep all night, the body's got nothing to activate itself. And this is why people drink so much coffee. I think they get out of bed and they reach for a caffeine fix and say, oh, wow, I'm awake now. All as they've done is given their body a false hope of some sort of fuel coming into their body, not just caffeine. And it's the time when we need to be putting something into our tummies to start our day, to give us the thinking and the energy to pursue our days. So that's just one example of a new moon. Instead of looking at, oh, I want a new car, or I'd like a new job, or I'd like a new relationship, maybe we need to look at it in not so much of a superficial way, and maybe look at our health for a change and look at what we can do to bring in a new way of looking at becoming the most healthy person that we can become. And I can remember last year when we were working with a new moon, and I think it was the new moon in Virgo, and I put on my list that I needed to find something that would help me with, I have an autoimmune disease that creates chronic inflammation in my body. And I can remember putting on my list thinking there's got to be something that I'm missing. I'm always looking and researching and trying to find other ways to reduce the inflammation in my body. There must be something that I'm missing. And lo and behold, within 48 hours, I came across a site that gave me the answer that I needed. So it's not impossible. It comes back to that point of focus, of us focusing on what we need to bring or attract into our lives that are new. So with the Taurian energy, it can also represent principles and things that are important to us. So maybe you need to be changing your principles. Maybe you need to be changing how you look at things in your life. And, you know, there's lots of different ways of looking at things. I think sometimes as we become older, I think we become a little bit stubborn and fixed and rigid in our thinking, and thinking that this is the way I've always done things and I'm not about to change now because it's comfortable and we're in a rut. And yes, the Taurian energy can enhance that, but sometimes also it's asking you and it's suggesting to you, okay, have another look at that. Do these principles, do these things really fit you? Or are you just doing it because it's habit? So maybe it might be time to put a new principle on your list of something new that you want to bring into your life, that you have a different way of approaching things, or you'd like some new ideas as far as how to handle your finances, because the Taurian energy does also focus on money, and money being very important to all Tauruses, or the Taurian energy is about money and finances and security for the future. So maybe that might be something else that you want to put on your list this month, that I'm looking for new ways to create more financial security for me and my family moving forward. So as I said, it doesn't always have to be about, oh, I'd like a new car, or I'd like a new dress, or I'd like a new house or a new suit. It can be about practical things like, I'd like some further information or some new ideas about how to handle my family finances, or to move us in a more secure direction moving forward. So once you've written your little list, and you may have written on your list the things that you're ready to release that were new a little while ago, and you feel now that they're ready to be sort of moved on, I want you to write 2 identical lists, maybe 3. 3 is a good idea, because if you write 3 lists, then you've got 2 lists to work with your candles. So we're working with the new moon candle. Now, the new moon candle is a candle that I designed a couple of years ago purely for the new moon energy. So I would write my list, I would read it out aloud, and then I would pop it under my candle. I would light the candle for 15 minutes to 2 hours per day for that 7-day cycle. And I would be focusing on the fact of what is on that list that I'm wishing to attract or draw to me in my life. With our extra large candles, they have 2 wicks. So I like 1 wick one day and 1 wick the next day. It just gives you a focus of being able to sort of get a longer burn time out of your candles, so up to 60 hours normal burn time with our extra large candles. And I would also do the same thing with my Taurus candle, because it's the new moon in Taurus. Reading my second list, right, popping it underneath the candle and doing the same sort of thing. So it's important that our candles burn for 15 minutes to 2 hours a day. I like to sit with my candles. I never leave them unattended. That way, hopefully, nothing will catch on fire, because it is a flame after all, and it shouldn't be left unattended, or where children and animals can get to it, or under windows or under curtains or under air conditioners. Always burn your candles not in a draft, and you will get a longer burn time out of them also. For those of you that want a smaller kit, this is my travel kit. This week I've made it up of 2 earth sign and 1 new moon candle. These little candles are our travel size candles. They will burn for about 15 hours each. Same principles apply. For those of you that don't wish to work with a candle, you think it's too dangerous, or you don't have the time to sit with it, then you can use a melt warmer. You can pick these up at your department store. They're fairly inexpensive. You would start the week off with this, with 1 teaspoon of each wax out of each candle. You can pop your list underneath the melt warmer, and again, reading out your list, and you can leave that going all day. I tend to work with a combination of both. I light my candles, I sit with them for 15 minutes, but I also have the same combination in my melt warmer with my list underneath that I read it out loud before I turn it on. That way, to me, I just intensify the energy of the new moon that I'm working with, that I'm working with my candles, but I'm also working with my melt warmer to bring the new things that I wish to have in my life. Now, it's interesting when we work with new moons. New moons happen every month, and it's always important that we work with the energy of that particular new moon. And this month, as I said, it's the new moon in Taurus, so it's everything that relates to the Taurus energy, which is about solid, good nutrition. It's about the things that are important to us in our lives, and it's also about money and financial security. So those are the 3 main areas, but the Taurian energy is also about slowing down. So that's why I said at the beginning of the presentation, it's the time when we can allow ourselves to slow down a little bit, that we can take that luxurious bubble bath. We can allow ourselves that time to sit down and watch a movie and not feel guilty about it, because the Taurian energy is asking us to slow down, take stock, reanalyze things, give ourselves time to sort of regroup and re-energize our bodies, by just slowing down just marginally. But you also have to be aware of, during any Taurian energy, it can also be the time when tempers can flare a little bit, because Tauruses aren't known necessarily for their good, gracious energy all the time. They can be very stubborn. They can be very definite in the way that they have their views and see the world. So you have to be aware of, some people may be very firm and very resolute on what they believe is right and may not necessarily agree with you. So it's not the time to get into a ding-dong argument with somebody because their belief system is a little bit different to yours. Maybe take the time to slow down, listen to what they've got to say, analyze what they're saying, and then maybe come back with, yes, look, I fully understand what you're saying, but have you thought about it in this way? Or have you looked at it from this angle? And that may be beneficial to both parties. And instead of having an argument over it, we're having a very grown up, very mature discussion in a way where we're both getting our passionate points of view across in a very calm, gentle sort of manner. Instead of having fisticuffs, we've got it in a calm approach. So I hope this has helped you with our presentation of the new moon in Taurus. It's always a wonderful time of the month when the new moon sort of renews the energy and makes us feel fresh and new again, that we can cope with just about anything that life has to throw at us at this time. On next week's presentation, we will be talking about the sun in Taurus. So that doesn't mean if you're not a Taurus, don't tune in. It just means that we'll be talking about the Taurian energy. So you get to understand a little bit more about the Taurus people that are in your life, but also how to work with the energy when we go into the Taurus time of the year. It's very important that we understand the cycles and the zodiac moving around, that this is where the energy changes each month as the sun moves from one sign to another, and we've got the moon moving signs every 2.5 days. And then we have another 8 planets that move around the zodiac that are also influencing what is happening in our lives. So there's always a lot of change happening with astrological slant on how things are moving in our lives. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Be kind to each other, and we'll do it all again next week. Bye for now.